Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is that you are joining me. I hope if you're watching this video that you have received your book of the month, and we are going to be reading Bridge to Terabithia. This was our Scholastic book of the month, so I was really glad that I was able to mail it out to you and that you were able to get your very own copy. It is one of my favorite books. I read it whenever I was in 5th grade, so just a little bit older than you. And it really just impacted me in a really positive way. It's a great story, so I'm really excited to be able to share it with you. My hope is that you will follow along each day as I read to you, or you read on your own, and just let me know what you think about it. We can have conversations. And this can also take place of your 20 to 30 minutes of reading. So even if the video isn't 20 minutes long, that's okay. You're still getting time to read and listen. I will most likely do one chapter a video. If the chapters are really short, I might do two. However, if you're not able to listen to both, you don't have time, you're getting sleepy, whatever it might be, just pause the video and you can always come back to it. I will also create a playlist with just these readings, and so you'll be able to find the video that you need a lot quicker. And I'll also put it in the title, the name of the chapters that we're reading. So again, you'll be able to find the video that you need a lot faster. So without further ado, if you have your book and you want to follow along, go ahead, grab your book, get comfortable somewhere, grab your family if you want them to join as well. And we are going to get started with The Bridge to Terabithia by Catherine Peterson. So chapter 1 starts out with Jesse Oliver Aarons Jr. Excuse me, let me get some water before I get started. All right. Brum, 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 brippity, brippity, brippity. Good. His dad had the pickup going. He could get up now. Jess slid out of bed and into his overalls. He didn't worry about a shirt because once he was running, he would be as hot as poppin' grease, even if the morning air was still chill. Wore shoes because the bottoms of his feet were by now as tough as his worn-out sneakers. Jess, where are you going? Maybelle lifted up herself sleepily from the double bed where she and Joyce Ann slept. Shh, he warned her. The walls were thin. Mama would be mad as flies in a fruit jar if they woke her this time of day. He patted Maybelle's hair and yanked the twisted sheet up to her small chin. Just over the cow field, he whispered. Maybelle smiled and snuggled down under the sheet. Gonna run? Maybe. Of course he was going to run. He had gotten up early every day all summer to run. He figured if he worked at it, and Lord, he had worked at it, he could be the fastest runner in 5th grade when school opened up. He had to be the fastest, not one of the fastest, not the next fastest, but the fastest, the very best. He tiptoed out of the house. The place was so rattly that it screeched whenever you put your foot down. But Jess had found that if you tiptoed, it only gave a low moan, and he could usually get outdoors without waking Mama or Ellie or Brenda or Joyce Ann. Maybelle was another matter. She was going on 7, and she worshipped him, which was okay sometimes. When you're the only boy smashed between 4 sisters, the older 2 had despised you ever since you stopped letting them dress you up and wheel you around their rusty old doll carriage. The littlest one cried if you looked at her cross-eyed. It was nice to have someone who worshipped you, even if it got unhandy sometimes. He began to trot across the yard. His breath was coming out in little puffs, cold for August, but it was early yet. By noontime, when his mom would have him out working, it would be hot enough. Miss Bessie stared at him sleepily as he climbed across the scrap heap. Over the fence into the cow field. Moo, she said, looking for all the world like another Maybelle, with her big, brown, droopy eyes. Hey, Miss Bessie, Jess said soothingly, just go back to sleep. Miss Bessie rolled over in the greenest patch. Most of the field was brown and dry, and yanked a mouthful. That a girl, just eat your breakfast. Don't pay me no mind. He always started in the northwest corner of the field, crouched over like the runners he had seen in the wide world of sports. Bang, he said, and he took off flying around the cow field. Miss Bessie strolled toward the center, still following him with her droopy eyes, chewing slowly. She didn't look very smart, even for a cow. but she was plenty bright enough to get out of Jess's way. His straw-colored hair flapped hard against his forehead, and his arms and legs flew out every which way. He had never learned to run properly, but he was long-legged for a 10-year-old, and no one had more grit than he. Lark Creek Elementary was short on everything, especially athletic equipment, so all of the balls went to the upper grades at recess time after lunch. Even if a fifth grader started out the period with the ball, it was sure to be in the hands of a sixth or seventh grader before the half hour was over. The older boys always took the dry center of the upper field for their ball games, and the girls claimed the lower top section for hopscotch and jump rope and hanging around talking. So the lower grade boys had started this running thing. They would all line up on the far side of the field where it was either muddy or deep, crusty ruts. Earl Watson, who was no good at running but had a big mouth, would yell, "Bang!" and they'd race across the line they had towed across at the other end. One time last year, Jesse had won. Not just the first heat, but the whole shebang. Only once, but it had put into his mouth a taste for winning. Ever since he had been in first grade, he'd always been that crazy little kid that draws all the time. But one day, April 22nd, a drizzly Monday it had been, he ran ahead of them all, the red mud sloshing up through the holes in the bottom of his sneakers. For the rest of that day, and until after lunch the next, he had been the fastest kid in third, fourth, and fifth grade, and he was only a fourth grader. On Tuesday, Wayne Pettis had won again as usual, but this year Wayne Pettis was in sixth grade. He'd be playing football until Christmas and baseball until June with the rest of the big guys. Anybody had the chance to be the fastest runner, and by Miss Bessie, this year was going to be Jesse Oliver Aarons Jr. Jess pumped his arms harder and bent his head for the distant fence. He could hear the third grade boys screaming him on, and they would follow him like a country music star, and Maybelle would pop her buttons. Her brother was the fastest, the best. They ought to give the rest of the first graders something to chew their cuds on. Even his dad would be proud. Jesse rounded the corner. He couldn't keep going quite so fast, but he continued running for a while. It would build him up. Maybelle would tell Daddy so it wouldn't look as though Jess, was the bragger. Maybe Dad would be so proud that he'd forgotten about how tired he was from the long drive back and forth to Washington and the digging and hauling all day. He would get right down on the floor and wrestle the way they used to. Old Dad would be surprised at how strong he had gotten in the last couple of years. His body was begging him to quit, but Jess pushed on. He had to let that puny chest of his know who was boss. "Jess!" It was Maybelle yelling from the other side of the scrap heap. "Mama says you gotta come in and eat now. Leave the milk until later." Oh, crud, he had been running too long. Now everyone would know he had been out and started on him. "Yeah, okay," he churned, still running, heading toward the scrap heap. Without breaking his rhythm, he climbed over the fence, scrabbled across the scrap heap, thumped Maybelle on the head, "Ow!" and trotted over to the house. "Well, look at the big Olympic star," said Ellie, banging 2 cups onto the table so that the strong black coffee sloshed out. "Sweatin' like a knock-kneed mule." Jess pushed his damp hair out of his face and plunked down on the wooden bench. He dumped in 2 spoonfuls of sugar into his cup and slurped to keep the hot coffee from scalding his mouth. "Oh, Mama, he stinks!" Brenda pinched her nose with her pinky crooked delicately. "Make him wash." "Get over to the sink and wash yourself," his mother said, without raising her eyes from the stove, "and step on it. These grits are scorching the bottom of the pot already." "Mama, not again," Brenda whined. Lord, he was tired. There wasn't a muscle in his body that didn't ache. "You heard what Mama said," Ellie yelled at his back. "I can't stand it, Mama," Brenda said. "Make him get his smelly self off this bench." Jess put his cheek down on the bare wood at the tabletop. "Jesse!" His mother was looking now. "And put a shirt on." "Yes, ma'am." He dragged himself to the sink. The water flipped on his face and up his arms pricked like ice. His hot skin crawled under the cold drops. Maybelle was standing in the kitchen door watching him. "Get me a shirt, Maybelle." She looked as if her mouth was set to say no, but instead she said, "You should oughta beat me on the head." and went off obediently to fetch him a t-shirt. Good old Maybelle. Joyce Ann would have been screaming yet from that little tap. 4-year-olds were a pure pain. I got plenty of chores needs doing around here this morning, his mom announced as they were finishing their grits and red gravy. His mom was from Georgia and still cooked like it. Oh, Mama, Ellie and Brenda squawked in concert. Those girls could get out of work faster than grasshoppers could slip through their fingers. Mama, you promised me and Brenda could go to Millsburg for school shopping. You ain't got no money for school shopping. Mama, we were just going to look around. Lord, he wished Brenda would stop being so whiny. Christmas, you don't let us have any fun at all. Any fun, Ellie corrected her puny. Oh, shut up. Ellie ignored her. Miss Timmons is coming to pick us up. I told Lolly Sunday you said it was okay. I feel dumb calling her and saying that you changed your mind. Oh, all right, but I ain't got no money to give you. Any money, something whispered inside Jess's head. I know, Mama. We'll just take the $5 Daddy promised to us, no more than that. What $5? Oh, Mama, you remember? Ellie's voice was sweeter than melted Mars bars. Daddy said last week we girls were going to have something for school. Oh, take it, his mother said angrily, reaching for her cranked vinyl purse on the shelf above the stove. She counted out 5 wrinkled bills. Mama, Brenda started again, we can't have just one more. It'll be like 3 each. No. Mama, you can't buy anything for $2.50. Just one little pack of notebook papers. Gonna up to... No. Ellie got up noisily and began to clear the table. Your turn to wash, Brenda, she said loudly. Oh, Ellie. Ellie jabbed her with a spoon. Just saw that look. Brenda shut up with her wine half out of her rose lustre lipsticked mouth. She wasn't as smart as Ellie, but even she knew not to push Mama too far, which left Jess to do the work as usual. Mama never sent the babies out to help, although if he worked it right, he could usually get Maybelle to do something. He put his head down on the table, then the running had done him in that morning. Through the top ear came a sound of the Timmons' old Buick. Wants oil, his dad would say, and the happy buzz of the voices outside the screen door as Ellie and Brenda squished in among the 7 Timmons. All right, Jessie, get your lazy self off the bench. Miss Bessie's bag is probably dragging the ground by now, and you still got beans to pick. Lazy. He was the lazy one. He had given his poor dead weight of a head 1 more minute on the tabletop. Jessie! Okay, Mama, I'm going. It was Maybelle who came out to tell him in the bean patch that the people were moving into the old Perkins place down to the next farm. Jess wiped his hair out of his eyes and squinted. Sure enough, a U-Haul was parked right by the door, one of those big old jointed ones. These people had a lot of junk, but they wouldn't last. The Perkins place was one of those ratty old country houses you move into because you have no decent place to go and move out as quickly as you could. He thought later how peculiar it was that it was here was probably the biggest thing in his life, and he shrugged it off as nothing. The flies were buzzing around his sweating face and his shoulders. He dropped the beans into the bucket and swatted with both hands. Give me my shirt, Maybelle. The flies were more important than the U-Haul. Maybelle jogged to the end of the row and picked up his t-shirt where he had been discarded earlier. She walked back, holding 2 fingers out in front of her. Ooh, it stinks, she said, just as Brenda would have. Shut up, he said, and grabbed the shirt away from her. All right, so just for today, I'm just going to read 1 chapter. I will post another video before tomorrow of chapter 2. That way, whenever you're ready, you can log in and watch it. But like I said, every day I'm going to post either a chapter or 2 for you to read. I hope you continue reading with me. This book is just a really great story, and it gets really, really good. So follow along. Let me know if you have any questions or if you would like to videotape yourself reading a chapter, and we can do that as well. But I hope you enjoy, and I will see you next time.